What's up, Liverpool fans? Welcome back. We are Yanks of the Cop. We are your hosts, Steve, and my main man, Wahomie. We are here for our new segment, Friday's Final Word. Here's our third time doing this. Ultimately, what we're going to do is just cover all the latest news around Liverpool. You know, how a lot of transfers come in, some big things this week. We want to cover everything and also want to cover anything that you want to talk about. So go ahead, throw it in the comments. We really appreciate it. And go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep growing our audience and have more Liverpool fans see this. But, well, homie, stressful week. How you feeling today, man?
I'm over. No, not really over. Still disappointed at Brighton. You know, that still really hurts deep, especially when you consider how good we played against West Ham and Spurs. And then for us to then produce that home to Brighton, just like it feels like, you know, like you take two giant steps forward and then you take a massive step backwards. So, you know, that's kind of still sore.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. I'm still kind of recovering from the defeat against Brighton. I want to say I hurt more than the West Brom, the Newcastle, and that stuff, just because we finally seemed like we're turning a corner. Just like you said, taking a couple steps forward, going to have a shit ton of momentum heading into City. And then just to get kicked in the teeth like that is such, man, it just took all the wind out of my sails. And not going to lie, I've been really depressed. I've been eating pizza almost every night since then. So I think that definitely not good. But we got a lot to talk about, so let's dive right into it. I think the first thing that you and I have talked about a lot, and I would love to just kind of kick it off with this, is Klopps substitutions, because there's a couple of things that aggravate with me with this. The first thing is the timing. It seems like he waits way too long to start making changes that could impact the game. But then the second layer of it is just it's a head scratcher when you actually see who gets subbed into the game. Like numerous times we've been in, you know, either a draw position or a losing position, and I see James Milner come onto the pitch. I was like, doesn't really make sense to me. And then guys like, you know, Oxlade-Chamberlain, you know, playing on the wing sometimes. Like we hate to see him out there. So it's been really interesting. Like, what do you think about Klopp substitutions? Obviously, he's brought us a lot, but it doesn't mean he's not open to some criticism.
Yeah, just obviously first, I just want to say, hey to like 1982 Bread Podcast and to Chris Welch. Good to see you guys. Yeah, I think it's difficult because, you know, on one hand, there's that school of thought where people are like, well, because Klopp's won us a league title, the Champions League, you can't criticize him. You know, there's those people who are so, you can't say anything. You can't say criticize Klopp or the players. The school of thought where people who are just too far left, and they will say, "Oh, get out of the club," you know, and stuff. I think we have to be balanced, and I think, look, while Klopp is an amazing manager, and we're lucky to have him. At the same time, you know, the times where his substitutions have cost us games, you know, where it doesn't make sense, you know, substitutions. Like I think it was against West Brom, I think it was West Brom game where, you know, we were needing a goal. And then he brought on Milner, as you said, instead of Shaqiri. Shaqiri sat on the bench. Minamino was sat on the bench. Os sat on the bench. And I didn't understand why Klopp does that. I don't get why he's so averse to make subs earlier. You know, like, why? I don't understand why we need to wait to the 60th or 70th minute. Why can't we just make a sub when you see it's not working at the, you know, 50th minute, you know, and just be quicker? And even in the last game against Burnley, against Brighton, I didn't understand, like, we need a goal. I didn't understand why he took Bobby off, because I thought he's probably one of the only people that, you know, can create something. I didn't understand Bobby coming off. I didn't understand Shaqiri coming off. I personally would have favoured us taking Milner off, pushing Ginny back to the 6, and then bringing on an extra attacker. You know, so sometimes I don't get his subs, and they actually cost us games because they're not the right subs. That, you know, obviously the odd occasion, like, you know, when he made the Jones sub against West Ham, that changed the game. But I think those are very far and few. Majority of the times his subs never make sense, and they actually hurt us. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's the medical teams that are telling him that these players can only take a certain amount of minutes. I'm not 100% sure, but it's from the fans' perspective. It does feel like frustrating, the fact that, you know, constantly we see the wrong subs, or we see Origi coming on, And when he brings Origi on sometimes for at 89th minute, and it's like, what's the point of bringing on Origi for 1 minute?
Yeah.
And those kind of things don't make sense to me.
Well, that's what's a head scratcher, because I just pulled up the West Brom game, and in that draw we brought on Divock Origi in the 90th minute. We brought on Oxlade-Chamberlain for Curtis Jones in the 83rd minute. And then we brought on Reece Williams for Joel Matip in the 60th, but that's because Joel Matip got injured. So it's just like, first of all, although I think, listen, like, we understand our injury problem, right? With no Jota either. Obviously, we're not as clinical off the bench. But when you think about, like you said, even when he gets the sub right and he brings on like last game when we were down and he brings on Curtis Jones, he should have done that 10 or 15 minutes earlier. And it feels like when he does get the timing right of the substitution, it's not the guy that we would think it's supposed to be. So it's a huge head scratcher for me. I don't really understand it. Again, not going to criticize Klopp or anything, like, not going to say that Klopp needs to get fired or anything like that. It's just so interesting to me. And obviously I think it's also shown that we really, really aren't quite where we thought we were. We're still a couple pieces away. Like we said, we've always talked about we need a creative midfielder, guy who can score goals. That's a huge piece that we're missing. So I think if we can add that in, that would be great too. And if we had a healthy Naby Keita who can start some games, come off the bench some games, that would change it too. But we're relying on too many guys who get injured and aren't available for the bench. And then all of a sudden, when we need bench guys, we don't have them there when we need them.
I think the opposite side is that is some of these players come on cold. So they don't, and they're expected, to perform. They're not amazed in that 10 minutes. They don't get seen again. They get put back in the basement. Like, I saw Minamino scores a great goal, never seen again, and now he's gone on loan.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a bit unfair. And also, I think, obviously, I'm not trying to criticize certain players, and I know certain players have got credit in the bank, but they get treated differently. If Origi has a bad game, everyone's on his back. I even heard people criticizing Origi for the Brighton game, saying it was his fault that we lost that game. And I was like, but then in that same game, Salah, Firmino all had poor games. No one said nothing about them. So I think like certain players who get credit in the bank, they get allowed to have bad performances. And there's certain players who don't feature that much. And when they do come on, because they don't make an impact in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, they get blamed. And everyone's on their back and says, oh, they're not good enough. And it's like, well, it's hard to come on for 5 minutes and change the game.
I completely agree. So it's like, how are the bench guys even supposed to get any momentum when when at most they're getting 15 minutes of game time? That's not enough to build momentum off of, and that's not even enough time to feel yourself into the game. I always see the 65th minute as like the perfect time to bring somebody on, because it gives them a solid 10 minutes to get into the flow of the game, and then an extra 20 minutes to make an impact. And I feel like we very rarely see Klopp make a substitution at the 60 minute mark. It's usually around 75 minutes. And that's just not enough time. It's just like, especially for a guy like Divock Origi, who I feel like he needs a lot more time, like on the field. As frustrating as it is when he's on the field, he needs some of that opportunity to start, getting that momentum and getting that flow. Like,
yeah, I think that's the thing. Obviously, because we've had people like, obviously Klopp earlier saying about the substitutions, about 5 subs and all that stuff, and he rarely uses all subs. So it's a bit difficult in that, because you can't be complaining about subs and you never use most of your subs, or you don't really use subs in the right way. But it's Klopp has been all the time. Like, he's loyal to certain players, and he believes in his certain methods, and overall his methods have worked and they've brought us huge success. But like I said, at the same time, for us, it's a bit frustrating that we don't see the right subs coming on, and we're pondering like, why are you bringing on a defensive player when we need a goal, or we're taking off our strikers and we need a goal. But maybe it's just down to options. Maybe Klopp is thinking, I don't have the squad I want.
I think that definitely plays a factor. Because if you think about it, yeah, still no Jota, still no Keita. Ox just got back from injury. And then again, having to play our center mids at center back, that's just makes us super thin pretty much everywhere across the pitch. But one thing I noticed actually today that came out was Jurgen Klopp's comment about Man City having like a 2-week break because of COVID, and kind of coming off a little bit complaining. I know that there's always mind games between City and Liverpool, but it seems like Klopp, especially this year, has been a lot more vocal about a lot of things, not just the league in general, certain teams having an advantage with breaks, the substitutions, and even a little bit about FSG. Have you picked up on that as well? Do you sense some frustration coming from Klopp's side of things?
Yeah, I think it's probably a accumulation of things. Obviously, I think it probably one part goes back to when Henderson said like they were, it was a blow when Joe Gomez got injured and it hit the team. It must have hit Klopp. Like he obviously visioned this season, after getting Thiago and Jota, he visioned, look, Liverpool are going to retain the title. We're going to have an amazing Champions League run. Then to see Van Dijk, Gomez, see that many injuries coming up and hitting us, that must hit him hard. Especially because he's a winner, Klopp. He loves winning. Like he's passionate about football. So that obviously takes his toll, and also the fact that he's not, with the coronavirus and how it's impacted finances, he's not got the players ideally he would have wanted. The January transfer window. And he's not able to get the kind of players he really wants, maybe to the summer. So I think a lot that takes its toll. And then when you see with us as well, decisions have gone against us because of VAR, where we've had, which I call sheer corruption against us. That again takes its toll. Then you're seeing like at Man City, they're getting mostly a fully fit squad. They're not having any injuries. So the fact that they had COVID, and obviously De Bruyne's injured now, but majority overall, they've had like a mostly fully fit squad. They've not had that many VAR decisions gone against them. So it just feels like everything's against Liverpool in that sense. So it's frustrated. I know Chris Welch is saying, am I worried that Klopp could leave in 2020? No, I think Klopp will stay to 2024. And I'm not listening to what Christian Falk says, where he said that Klopp is thinking about the World Cup 2024. Klopp's a man of his word. He said he's going to see out his contract. You'll see out his contract. And if he does go, it'll be the end of the 2024. He won't leave before that. Hearing that manager to just leave halfway through.
I completely agree. And also, I think for him, I think everyone knows, it seems to be a consensus that the next stop for him after Liverpool is going to be the German national team. And just with how Klopp likes to players, I think that for him, it'd be almost better if he took over Germany after the World Cup. So then that way he has a couple seasons, to play a lot of friendlies, play the Euro, stuff like that, to see what he's got, start forming, how he wants Germany to play, and then he can take over and for the next World Cup in 2028 and be in like a really good position. I mean, obviously Germany is always one of the top clubs, so I think that makes sense. And just like you said, well, homie, he's a man of his word. He's not going to just leave his get out of his contract. The only way I see that happening is if the relationship between him and FSG goes really south, but I don't envision that happening. But Chris did bring up another point. That's something I think we were going to talk about. We need to change our formation to a 4-2-3-1. And do you think the 4-3-3 is now becoming stale and predictable?
I do. And for example, I was surprised. Obviously, against West Ham, we played a diamond. Then I was surprised when we went back to 4-3-3 against Brighton. I didn't understand that. When I thought the diamond actually worked well. I do feel that we need to change our formation. But I think the problem is that Klopp doesn't ever try. He doesn't trust the 4-2-3-1 against big teams because he never plays it against the big teams. And hey Jay, good to see you, guy. Good to see you, boy.
Yay.
I do think we need to change formation and we need to start mixing up a bit more because it has become a bit predictable and it is. But I think the other side, maybe it's the fact that Klopp feels that he hasn't had the players to play the 4-2-3-1. Like, I think if we had Firmino, Henderson in midfield next to Thiago, he would have played the 4-2-3-1 more often. Or he had Keita fit or not fit, he'd play it more. And maybe he doesn't feel that sometimes he can't play 4-2-3-1 if it's Keita, Ginny, and Milner. So I don't know. I think it's a tough one. But I do feel that we need to be a bit more flexible in our formations and not just always go with a 4-3-3.
I don't think necessarily the 4-3-3 is the problem. I think It's how we utilize the 4-3-3. In my opinion, is what's becoming stale. It's so defensive minded first, especially in the midfield. And again, we're not playing through the middle enough. Like, our numbers are in the middle of the field with you have 3 central midfielders. That's where your numbers are. And yet we continue to play on the wing. And for some reason now teams are playing the low block and having at least 2 guys on each side out on the outsides. And that would mean that we have an advantage in the middle of the park. And yet we still can't take advantage of that. And I think you're right. I think it comes down to, again, just a lack of the quality that we typically have in that position. Like, I think if we had our normal center back pairings and then had Fabinho, Henderson, and Thiago, we would be top of the table right now, no question. Very hard to break down. What's happening now is Thiago has no freedom. He has to play super defensive, and even when he's playing in more of a box-to-box role, like, we know how Klopp likes to play. He wants us to be more defensive minded, get a turnover, and then attack. So I would like to see us change that, especially since we're lacking on the creativity going forward. I think a 4-2-3-1, especially when Jota comes back, I just think that's going to be so hard to stop, because that allows Bobby to do what Bobby does best, not have to worry about scoring goals, and just really focus his energy on winning the ball back and connecting with the front 3. And then that would allow Thiago. Then it wouldn't be that much of a problem to have Thiago to double pivot with Henderson or Fabinho, or even you put Thiago into the 10. And then you have one of Bobby or Jota off the bench for one of the front 4. So that's when we start seeing that flexibility. But honestly, I think the biggest person that we're missing, and I talk about him all the time, is Naby Keita. Like, he aggravates the shit out of me. He's never freaking healthy. But like, we need him. Like, we absolutely need him in here. And I think we'd be looking a lot different if he could stay healthy. And honestly, Homie would be the logical next choice as Liverpool manager. I'm sure he's already been contacted. I'm sure they're going over all of the, dotting all the I's and crossing the T's. Homie's going to come in there. His first order of business is going to be bringing in Hassan Mourar from Lyon. We all know that.
Plus, I'll show them my history of Football Manager of me, like, the amount of times I took Swansea. I took Swansea to Champions League, so that kind of skill doesn't go unnoticed.
That's impressive. Getting the Swans up there, it's really, really impressive. God knows. Back in the day when they used to have Michu and they were in IU, and we're actually geared than Michu. Just, I don't even know what he's doing. Is he even alive? I'm not sure. He just fell off the face of the earth. So, but anyway, kind of shifting focus away from that. Good news is it sounds like Jota and Naby, although they're not back to full training, they're back on the pitch and they're starting. So seems like they might be both still about a week or 2 away. Have you gotten an update on the actual timeline and when we can see them back on the pitch?
I just saw obviously people saying that I think they're probably like a week away. So I think they're more looked at maybe Leicester or Leipzig rather than being available anytime really soon. But I think the good thing is because they're not in first team training, they're just doing light training on the pitch, which is good. So they'll probably start ball work and stuff soon. But it's just good to see them back. When you think about it in so many games, like I think like if Jota had been fit, we'd have beaten Saints, we'd have beaten Newcastle, we'd have beaten Brighton and Burnley. We'd have won all those games because whether he came off the bench or he started, he would have offered something completely different the other strikers were, So we definitely would have missed him. I know we keep saying about Keita and his fitness, but he would have been perfect at the Brighton game off the bench if he came off because he can break down a low block and he can do like a defense splitting ball and play, and carry the ball further at the pitch and take on players, because obviously, and actually run with players. And I think that's something we're missing. But, obviously the thing, with Keita is just never fit. Same with Ox. If this was the 17-18 Ox before he got injured, we'd have one hell of a player because he was sensational back then. The Ox now doesn't ever attempt many dribbles or try and take on that many people like he used to. It's not the same Ox. So I think that's something we're really lacking. We don't have a player that's a maverick anymore. And that's disappointing. But yeah, hopefully, that we can keep Keita fit, and that, with the new head of fitness they got, I can't remember the guy's name, they recently hired in, can make an impact and actually keep Keita fit. And obviously, that Jota can come back and quickly get back amongst the goals and, rediscover the form he had before, because, he was sensational before we played him in that meaningless game in the Champions League. So, hopefully, this is just positive news, because I'm not writing off the league 100%. I think it's unlikely within the league now. But my thing is, I'm more focused now on the Champions League, because I feel that is a good bet for us. We can get to a final.
Yeah. I am not as, listen, I think the year when Liverpool came in second, we were 7 points clear at one point in the second half, and sometime in January or February, and we didn't end up winning the title. So it's definitely possible. All it takes, is City, is Diaz to get hurt, maybe Laporte to get hurt, and everything crumbles away, right? So anything can happen. I will say, I think it's an extreme long shot. I don't think second place is fully in the grasp, though. I think I don't envision United staying on top where they are. They just have way too many close games, and the ball keeps bouncing their way, and that's bound to change as well. The one good thing that we have going for us tomorrow is having Mane, Fabinho, and Alisson back in there. But I do think the title's over. I would focus, though, on the Champions League and have a really good result tomorrow, because, like you said, if we have a good result tomorrow, then Champions League is fully on.
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. Excuse me. Yeah. But we're going to talk more about Mane, Fabinho, and Alisson back in training for the pre-match tomorrow. But still, how much of a lift is that for the guys, especially coming off that loss to Brighton, knowing that, hey, it's hard to beat Liverpool and they have Mane in there, and then just having Fabinho in the back could be great.
That's a spine right there when you think about it. Was the team. I think obviously a massive loss. We obviously know, how good Alisson is. Look, I think when I look back to that Brighton game, I think Kelleher couldn't do anything about the goal. There was nothing he could do about the Brighton goal. I think overall he did okay, but I think the thing with what we miss is we pay credit to Alisson. Obviously, I'm not expecting Kelleher to be anything like Alisson, but you can see the difference in distribution. We missed Alisson's distribution, pass, with his feet and his balls and stuff. So you do miss that when he's not there. So it's a massive loss. So having him back is going to be huge in that game against City. And you miss obviously Fabinho's, world classness as a centre back. Although I'd love him back in midfield, but you miss that, everything he brings, the composure, the reading of the game, everything, and then you miss Mane's work rate. In that game against Brighton, you could feel that because Shaq was going in really narrow all the time. It wasn't really staying on the flank. It left Robbo didn't have the overlap as he normally does, the link-up play down that side. So the left-hand side was pretty dead. And you miss Mane's industrious and, his work rate. So having them back against Man City is huge. It gives us, to miss them all three would have given Man City a huge impetus in that game to know, Liverpool weakened. But then back, Man City know that, I think Mane's going to come up versus Cancelo. Cancelo's going to have a poor match. He's not facing anyone good. I'm not saying Cancelo's been amazing this season, 100%, but he's not faced anyone good on the Man City's run.
Yeah,
so he's going to have a battle this Sunday. So it's going to be like a proper fight now. So it boosts Liverpool's confidence hugely to have those players back. So you go to that game feeling much more confident. And I said before, it wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool win on Sunday, because our run against the big teams in the league has been really good. It's against the small teams where we've just been awful. So it wouldn't surprise me we beat Man City, we beat Leicester, probably beat Everton, and then we draw or lose to a West Ham or a Burnley after that.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating, though. But you're spot on. City's not going to sit back against us, and especially with the confidence that they're playing with right now, they're going to try and just bury us and make us, I mean, if they come out and beat us 3-0, 4-0, that's going to be a huge mentality killer for this Liverpool team. I think they're 100% going to try and do that. There's clear distaste between these two clubs. I think there's a respect, but they still fucking hate each other. And that you can tell by Klopp's comments, you can tell by Guardiola's comments, like this game is always a feisty game. So they're going to try and come out and beat us, but that does play into Liverpool's strengths right there. Like, not playing the low block.
I don't know. There was that one time where Guardiola came to Anfield and we drew 0-0. Was that 17-18 season?
Yeah.
And he just came to Anfield for a draw.
Yeah, but didn't they have some sort of not like an injury crisis, but I thought they were missing a couple key guys in the back in that game. I could be wrong, but
I just remember it ended 0-0 and it was a stale match. I think that was the game where Mahrez missed the penalty. Didn't he miss the penalty in the last minute or something?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Mahrez.
But he came to Anfield basically just to stifle our attack, and he was happy with the draw. And then they probably should have won because Mahrez should have scored his penalty. I hope he doesn't do that again Sunday because that's just boring.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, 18-19 was the 1-0 draw. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was a boring game when he did that.
But what about? I mean, you kind of mentioned it. Like, I think we both think that we're going to put in some good performances in the next few games because we're playing top competition. But it's literally getting to the point for me now where when we play a mid-table team to a low, like bottom of the table team, I have no confidence in our game because we have just shown that we cannot beat a low block. Like, how concerned are you for the rest of the season? Like, because we've proven I think we're undefeated against the top 6 this year, but we are losing and drawing against all these teams at the bottom of the table.
I think it's two things. I think one hand, I think that Liverpool players are, when it comes to the big team, they're up for it. They see that as a challenge. They want to prove that we are the best team. So when they play like an Arsenal or City or United, they're up for it. When they play a smaller club, I don't think there's that same feeling as being up for it. It takes them, or they become complacent and they feel that it's going to come, and then actually gives it that allows the opposition impetus to then attack us, and they get confident. So I think it is a concern because it feels to me. I know we're missing like the cross diagonal balls and long passes, Van Dijk and Gomez, and those were a big thing in terms of helping us beat low blocks. So maybe hopefully, I saw a tweet today where someone was saying that Kabak, not this season before, his passing was very good in terms of long range passing. So hopefully one of them Kabak or Davies can bring us like those long balls and switch play that'll help us beat opposition in the press. But it is a concern because we do struggle to break these low blocks down. We can't figure out how to block. If a team plays 4-4-2, we struggle against that. If they play, we used to be really good against 3 at the back. Now we struggle every time a team plays 3 at the back. They play five at the back. We struggle. So I don't know but Klopp doesn't seem to have the answers to break down these low blocks, and I don't think we're able to really do it because I think probably the plan would be as well to push Thiago up higher. But as you said before, we don't have the option of doing Thiago high because we've had to play Hendo and Fabinho in defence. That means that Thiago's had to do more defensive work. We've not had Keita to really help. It's difficult, on one hand, because we've not had the players to do it through injuries, and it just seemed a massive issue. Like Liverpool just can't break down these low blocks, and it is frustrating. And that's why I feel like if I was thinking about the Champions League, I'd want to avoid Atletico Madrid because I know they're going to cause us so much problems because of their low block, as they did last year. So I know we should have actually beaten them because of Adrian, but it was still a massive issue beating their low block. And it is a concern, because it feels like, like in 17-18 season when we went into that summer realizing that we needed a Fakir, a Keita at the time because we couldn't beat low blocks.
Yep. That's exactly how I feel too. It's really annoying. And yeah, man, I don't want my day any more brightened up. All right, I get it. I don't need that anymore. God damn. But no, I completely agree with that assessment. But what's going on with our home form, man? We went from not losing any games for years, and now we haven't scored in our last 3 games at Anfield and losing back-to-back games. Like, do you think this is just a blip on the radar, or do you think this is just kind of that's what's going on right now with the team?
I'll put it in a mixture because I think like some of our players are performers. So I think obviously some of them are missing the home crowd. Like Bobby's a performer, an entertainer. So he needs that home crowd buzz at Anfield. So I think some of our players do miss that when they're playing at home. And they probably don't feel that obviously that much when they play away. But I do feel that they're missing that home buzz of the fans at Anfield. So that is missing. But I think as well, like our players should be professional enough to be able to overcome that. I think it's just like away from home, we know that opposition teams are going to attack us more and they're going to come onto us more. So we are able to then exploit that. I think at home, when the onus is on us right now, we're struggling because teams are knowing that it's us that have to be the attacking team. And I think that's where we're struggling. Mm-hmm. I do think it is a concern because to lose back-to-back home games, to not score the last 3, that's a concern when you're going into City at home at Anfield. So, like something needs to change because it's just, we hear all the players again, like say we want to overcome this change, but then they put in poor performances. So it is a difficult one because I do feel that it's going to be a performance like that for the end of the season. I do think we'll struggle again against another low block at home.
Yep. I completely agree. And it's just funny because we've been without fans for so long that I forget that they're not in there like sometimes when we're watching. Obviously they're loud, and especially, everyone talks about the Liverpool home advantage at Anfield and how the crowd can take over. And I think that's what's contributed to like Bobby Firmino struggling. He's I think the number 1 guy on our team that relies on the crowd support.
Oh, Chris Welsh is saying Jota back in full training in 2 weeks.
According to Grizz, that'd be great. Yeah. That would be massive. So you'd probably be looking at probably 3 weeks out until he sees game time, a month until he starts starting. So that'd be huge for us. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not worried about our home form. I think it's just, again, injuries catching up to us, no home fans, and it's just adding up. It's just adding up. I think next season, if we have fans in the stands, we'll be back to having that place be a fortress, 100%. Yeah. But with the City game coming up, obviously we did bring in 2 new center backs, Ben Davies as well as Ozan Kabak. Kabak, like, would you start either one of these? It seems like Kabak might be the more experienced guy, more ready to go. Would you throw him or Davis in there in the center back spot so that way we can push him to?
Yeah, I tweeted this earlier, so I would. I think we've got nothing to lose. Like, this is for us. Like if we beat City, it opens up. Although it's going to be big ask still, but it gives you impetus for going on. And, especially with the players coming back now, coming from injury, gives you an impetus to go on and get some kind of belief back and try to pressure City. If we lose this game, then the title looks impossible. If we draw it, I still think the title will be very hard. So I think, I want Henderson back in midfield. I love for both Fabinho and Henderson in midfield, but I don't see Fabinho in midfield again the rest of the season. So I want Henderson back in midfield. I don't want him playing at centre-back, because you miss his energy, his drive, his leadership from the centre midfield. So for me, like Chris Welch is saying, I would throw Kabak in. I'd give him, put him next to Fabinho. Fabinho's experienced. He's, got that leader. It's not a vocal leader, but he's got that leadership to guide, as he's done with. Hey, Dave, good to see you.
Dave.
He's got leadership to guide Kabak to make sure that he's, in the right position, and and also Kabak's going to have Alisson behind him as well, barking orders. So I'd throw him in there to allow Henderson, Gini, Thiago midfield, and that would cause City loads of problems. I do not want to see Henderson at centre back this weekend. Next to Fabinho, I don't. So I know it's a big ask just chucking in Kabak, but I think we have to do it. We got to take a risk.
Yeah, my concern was throwing him in too early and having his confidence break down, but it's a good point. I think you're absolutely right that we do need Henderson back in the midfield, especially to help guys like Thiago get more involved with the offense. But I just think that if you did play Kabak at center back with Fabinho and they put in a good result, that is going to be massive confidence for Kabak for the rest of the season. This is probably the hardest game that he's going to see all year, other than Champions League, depending on who we get in the draws and everything like that. So if he can go out there against City, put in a performance and help us win, God, that would be massive for this 20-year-old. We've heard all about his, potential to be a future captain. He's a vocal guy. He has a little bit of an attitude to him too on the pitch. He's not afraid to get into a little dust up. So I think it'd be huge if he would come in on Sunday, put in a great performance, help us get 3 points. That would propel him going forward for the rest of the season. And I also think it would be a huge breath of fresh air for the rest of the guys on the team, knowing, okay, now we can have Henderson in the sixth going forward for the rest of the season. So I completely agree. And I actually made a poll on Twitter. We had 25 votes. So who do you want Liverpool to line up at center back against City? 75% said Fabinho and Kabak, and then 21% said Fabinho and Phillips, and then there was only about one vote for Fabinho and Henderson. So seems like everybody wants to see the Fabinho and Kabak, but either way, if it's not Kabak, I think it's going to be Phillips, because I think Henderson has to be in the midfield, and I think Klopp knows that.
Well, just to answer Dave, we'll do a video soon, Dave. One of us will be in touch. On my one worry, I think why Phillips has played well. My one worry is, we saw Jesus cause Fabinho and Matip issues when we played them away to City, and he got a goal there, and it caused Gomez lots of problems at Anfield, at Etihad last season as well. My one worry is the fact with Phillips is he's good against big, rugged players that are going to play long ball. Against someone who's quick footed, that's going to be more like movement. I think he's going to struggle against Jesus if he plays on the Sunday. And that's my one thing. I think Jesus as well has got decent pace, decent movement. I think he'll struggle against that. And that's my one worry about playing him on the Sunday.
Yeah, and Kabak does have speed too. He's like about my height. He's like 6'1". So I think he even said one of the best strengths that he has is his speed. So he would be a really good matchup, 100% for a guy like Jesus. And you're absolutely right, because Phillips does not move that great all the time. So just like everybody else, he would attack that Phillips Trent side and just keep going down that lane. All it takes is one or two opportunities for them to score.
We've seen how Gomez got done quite a few times for against City, where he gets done for movement, and Gomez is fast and much better same back than Phillips. So that would be my concern. But I think one thing I read about Kabak was the fact that his one-on-one duels are really good, really impressive one-on-one duels, and he's a monster. So I would feel more confident. I know it's throwing him in a bit deep end, but I'd feel more confident with him handling the movement of City than Phillips. But at the same time, I can understand Klopp probably might not even play Kabak, because he might like to keep players for a whole week of training. So, but I would take the risk. I agree with Dave. A draw is no use to us. We have to go for the win. We've got to go out for win.
Hope we do. I hope we do. Hope we go for it. Take some risks. See what comes out the other side. It'd be awesome. We got to change it up. We got to switch up the juju. But some breaking news that came through about an hour ago is the Cade Gordon from Derby County is officially official. So he is now a member of Liverpool. The youngster from Derby County, they were really hoping to keep him. And the moment Liverpool came in, seemed like he was convinced to come in. So the youngster movement continues. Don't know a ton about Cade Gordon, but all of the feedback I've seen is super positive. So, what are your thoughts on bringing in another youngster?
Well, the only thing I don't know much about him. I've never seen him play either. But I just remember reading about a few articles about him, like last week, when the news we broke out, we were interested in him. I know we beat Man United to him. Man United were sure that he was joining them, and we gazumped them for him. I remember reading an article where I think they were talking to like a scout, English football scout, and he was saying that Jordan was the best 16-year-old in the country at his age that he's seen for quite a long time. So I think he's quite a good technical player. So, hopefully he can make the step up in a few years' time and end up being like another Harvey Elliott and save us a lot of money. But I think it's good that he's, we're snapping up this top young talent, because we need to do that. That's the next step. Get as many young talent as we can in, and then if they make it to the first team, great. If they don't, then sell them on for a profit. So, but I just love for us. It's been a while since we had a quality young attacker come through. The youngster that came through, not in Sterling. So I'd love for us to, whether it's Harvey Elliott or Kay Jordan, one of them to come through and be our next kind of Sterling that shoots to stardom.
Well, I like it big. I mean, pretty much for everything you said. I mean, this seems like we actually have a few options now of guys who can make a difference in 5-10 years time. We have Harvey Elliott. We got Cade Gordon. Billy the Kid's still out there. Can't forget about Billy the Kid. And then Pitaluga, the goalie. So I mean, that's those are four guys who could come in the next 5 to 10 years and make an impact on this club. And I think it just goes to show that LFC and Klopp are really trying to make Liverpool an engine, something that, we can bring in guys to impact the team right away, but then we also can backfill when the time is right to have some more homegrown talent and guys who can kind of grow with the team. So I think all around it's all positive stuff here. But really the last thing I wanted to cover was I heard some rumors about the Champions League and they might be changing up some things. So two of the things I saw, one of them was in the Times. It says, Europe's biggest teams will be given a safety net to play in the Champions League, even if they fail to finish in the top 4 of their domestic competitions, under UEFA's plan to that was revealed to Premier League clubs on Thursday. And then the other thing from the Telegraph that came through was 6 Premier League clubs may play in the Champions League from 2024 onwards. UEFA's proposals would see teams play 10 group games each, and then the Europa League would be reduced in size. Now, I'm sure there's a lot more that they're talking about with that, but just on the surface, what are your original thoughts when you first hear that?
I think it makes it a bit unfair and also who defines a top team? Are they going to do it by points? To say how many points? I think it makes it a bit unfair, and I think that favors the big clubs rather than the small clubs. So I'm not really sure about UEFA's plans, and they always seem to mess it up. I just think it should stay how it is. There's no need to really change it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Your point about what determines a big club is spot on, and then it also just what is it supposed to mean for these other clubs who are busting their ass to make the top 4 in their leagues? I think it just sends the wrong message. I think it caters just to the biggest markets, and I don't think that's right. Like a team like United would probably get in all the time, and you've seen the last 5 years they've been a fringe Champions League team at best. So that's not a shot at them. It's just kind of how they've been recently since Sir Alex Ferguson left. But yeah, I mean, it completely defeats the purpose of Champions League, in my opinion. Like, you should be rewarded for busting your ass and making a top four spot. And I would hate if they did that. It just seems like it's more of like that project, like big picture or whatever the hell it was, to do like the Super League or whatever. So I hope they don't do that. Champions League is majestic as it is. It doesn't need any more changes. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Hopefully nothing.
I think the last one I just wanted to touch on. Did you see that there's an article today on Sky that was saying that there was a fear that Liverpool would have to release their Brazilian players for March internationals. And now FIFA have said that Premier clubs are not obliged to release any of their players for either Spanish or Portuguese or South American to the international teams because of the fear that Liverpool are going to lose Alisson, Fabinho, and Bobby, and there's also fear that City would lose Edison, Silva, and Jesus. But now that they're saying they don't, because apparently they're saying that the rule is if a player has to come back for more than 5 days, then it's going to have a massive impact on the actual club they play for, and you don't have to release them. So, so hopefully we tell our players no, they're not going, and we force them to stay.
Yeah.
So the World Cup qualifiers.
It'd be big for Brazil. No Alisson, no Fabinho, no Firmino. We'll see what happens. I think it's also going to depend on where we are. If we're still in a battle, maybe they'll stick around. But be interesting to keep an eye on that. That's going to be huge for the end of the season. So we'll see what goes on there. But anything else you wanted to cover, or you want to just we can wrap it up here and get ready for our pre-match tomorrow?
Nothing else. That's the last thing I had to say.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, chat, you guys are awesome as always. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow for our pre-match Man City coverage. And we have a Man City guest for that. Is it just going to be the original three?
Man City guest.
Oh, beautiful. And behind enemy lines, Man City guys coming over. Let's give them a lot of grief, but let's be respectful and ask them some good questions. But otherwise, we'll be back then. Thanks for tuning in. Up the Reds. And we'll see you guys next time.
Up the Reds.